Hi, this is Alan Bagby. Welcome to my Substack. Beyond the Courtroom, Reclaiming the High Priestly Work of Christ, Part 1, Moving from a Cosmic Courtroom to the Biblical Sanctuary of Purification. Welcome to the first installment of a 10-part series on the systematic failures of penal substitutionary atonement, PSA. For many in the Western evangelical tradition, PSA is not merely one theory of the cross. It is treated as the gospel itself. Yet, when we hold this model up to the light of Greek and Hebrew scriptures, we find a startling disconnect. Over the next 10 articles, we will deconstruct the legal transaction model of the cross and rediscover a more ancient, restorative, biblically faithful understanding of how Jesus Christ reconciles the world to God. Let's begin by examining the meaning, location, and timing of atonement. 1. The meaning, penalty versus purification. The PSA critique. In the PSA framework, the meaning of atonement is fundamentally judicial. It defines atonement as a legal transaction in which the punishment for sin is imputed to an innocent substitute to satisfy God's retributive wrath. In this view, justice is only served when a penalty is paid. This turns the cross into a cosmic courtroom in which God's primary problem is legal. The biblical understanding. Biblically, the Hebrew word for atonement, kafar, does not mean punishment. It is used nearly 100 times in the Old Testament to denote cleansing, wiping away, or purging. This purification is centered on the blood, which the Torah defines not as death, but as life. Leviticus 17:11 states, "The life of the flesh is in the blood, for it is the blood by reason of the life that makes atonement." This theme of lifeblood as a purifying agent is echoed in Genesis 9:4 and Deuteronomy 12:23, which emphasize that the blood is the life. In the New Testament, this translates into a restorative reality where the blood of Jesus, his Son, cleanses us from all sin. 1 John 1:7. Rather than resolving a legal debt through a punishing death sentence, atonement addresses a contamination problem by applying the blood of the unblemished holy life of Jesus Christ. 2. The location. The hill versus the sanctuary. The PSA critique. PSA advocates almost exclusively locate the act of atonement at the place of death, because they view the death of the victim as the payment. They believe the atonement occurred on the hill of Golgotha, at the moment Jesus' heart stopped. To PSA, the cross is the bank where the debt was settled. The biblical understanding. In the sanctuary model, the atonement does not occur at the place where the sacrifice dies. While the animal was sacrificed at the altar, the high priest then transported that blood into the Holy of Holies to sprinkle it upon the mercy seat. This is why Hebrews 9:11 through 12 tells us that Christ came as a high priest who entered through the greater and more perfect tabernacle, not through the blood of goats and calves, but through his own blood. The location of the atonement is the presence of God. Christ did not merely die on a hill, he entered into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Hebrews 9:24. By shifting the location from the site of death to the heavenly sanctuary, we see that the cross was the preparation, but the mercy seat is where the reconciliation is realized. 3. The timing. The death versus the presentation. The PSA critique. Flowing from its misunderstanding of location, PSA is forced into a timing error. It claims that atonement was a finished work on Good Friday. In this timeline, the resurrection is merely a receipt showing the payment was accepted. rather than being the very mechanism of our salvation. The biblical understanding. The biblical timeline places the definitive act of atonement at the presentation of the resurrected life. In the Levitical types, atonement was not made until the priest emerged from the veil after presenting the blood. This is why Romans 5:10 says, "We are saved by his life." If the work ended at death, the resurrection would be an afterthought. Instead, we are told that Jesus was delivered up for our trespasses and raised for our justification. Romans 4:25. Atonement is a present, living reality because we have a high priest who always lives to make intercession for us. Hebrews 7:25. It is a transformative event that occurs when we are joined to the life of Christ, not a static legal decree issued in the distant past. Summary for Part 1. By shifting the focus from punishment to purification, from the place of death to the presence of God, and from the past payment to the present life, we begin to see the cross not as a place of divine violence, but as a place of ultimate healing. Join us for Part 2, where we will discuss why the logic of PSA inevitably leads to the troubling Calvinist doctrine of limited atonement. Thank you for reading and listening to my Substack, and remember Proverbs 25:2.